Welcome back to the Spread Pick'em Show with Mike and Andrew. We are in week number 13. The fantasy playoffs are coming up soon, and we'll see what happens in our league for that, of course, but I'm excited for it. I'm also excited that I gained two more games on you, I believe, in our little standings we got going on here, and Andrew will be in a Giants jersey in no time. But Andrew, how are you today?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. We're doing this on a Saturday, so our apologies. We've been busy the past couple of days. I got a new dog yesterday, so I'm joking. Andrew got a dog. I
Yep.
like to call it my dog, but it's Andrew's technically. But we'll go with that. All right, so we'll do last week's review real quick. So some Thanksgiving games: Houston at Detroit. We both took Houston. That was one of my favorite bets. We got the win there. Washington at Dallas. Washington, they actually won the game outright, and Dallas was a -3. I got the win. You got the loss. Las Vegas, who was one of my favorite bets. I look like a fool now. Got destroyed by the Falcons. LV, Las Vegas was a -3. But we both took the Raiders there, so we both took the L. But I felt good about the Raiders in that matchup. But the Falcons are a team you can never predict. They can sometimes beat you by 20 points and sometimes just look terrible. So it is what – and no Julio Jones, too. That was the worst part about it. So I don't know how it happened, but it did. Los Angeles Chargers at the Buffalo Bills. This is one of my favorite potential upsets of the week, and it showed how bad Anthony Lynn is. If you saw the end of that game, the time management was awful. The Chargers did not cover the spread, so we both took the loss there. The Giants at Cincinnati, they covered most of the game. They had a 19-10 lead, but of course Brandon Allen had a touchdown at the end to cover that game. The Giants still won, but we both took the loss there. Tennessee at Indianapolis. Your Colts, man. What happened to your Colts? I have to ask you.
I picked them. That's what happened.
No, you didn't. Oh, you did.
I did
Yes, you
pick the
did.
Colts.
Sorry.
Whenever I pick the Colts, they don't like to cover.
No,
when I
you,
pick
you
the
said it
Colts.
like a good thing. I was confused. I was yeah, okay. So I got the Titans. You got the Colts there. Cleveland at Jacksonville. We both took Cleveland, and Cleveland probably should have covered, but honestly, Mike Glennon did not look that bad. So I think the Jaguars lost by 2 or 4. I think it was 2. So good job by them to at least keep that competitive. We both took the loss though. Carolina at Minnesota. Minnesota was a -4. I got the loss. You got the win. I think Minnesota won, right? By 1 point maybe or something on a
Yeah.
field. I think they won on a field goal by 1 or 2 points. So you got the cover there. Arizona at New England. Arizona probably should have won, but Zane Gonzalez missed a 46 or 47-yard field goal. New England won, I think, on a field goal. So, yeah, we both got the loss there with the Cardinals, and the Cardinals were one of your favorite bets, and the Browns, Andrew. So we went 1-3 on our favorite bets last week. So that's awful. Not good. I did win a Thanksgiving parlay, so I felt happy about it. And then one person on Twitter comments oh, you only won $20. Who cares? I'm like, I don't bet a lot of money. I'm just happy with what I can get around here, so I'm fine with it. But Miami at the Jets. Miami was a -7. I think the Jets scored 3 points in Sam Darnold's return. He had all his weapons. Not a good look for Sammy D, but it is what it is. New Orleans at Denver. New Orleans was a -6, and Denver had no quarterback. Kendall Hinton did not look too good in his emergency start. Honestly, what's your opinion about that game? Because I've heard opinions that the NFL screwed over the Broncos, and other opinions who cares? It's the Broncos. What do you think about that?
Well, no, I don't think the NFL screws over the Broncos if it's, the Broncos' fault for being put in that situation in the first place, not following protocols, the QB room not wearing masks around everybody else. I mean, it's their own fault. So I guess you can say the NFL is almost punishing them in that way by letting them play that game. But it's just a bad situation for the Broncos.
Right. I think the NFL could have pushed the game back a day. It wouldn't have done anything for their quarterbacks because they still would have been out, but at
Yeah.
least would have given them another day. But in my honest opinion, I think if it was a team not named the Broncos or some other bad team, I think they might have made a more effort to push it back, kind of what they did with the Steelers and the Ravens game that was played on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So maybe they said, screw it, it's the Broncos. They'll probably lose even if Drew Lock is there anyway. And I don't know. I feel like if it was the Saints, on the other hand, they might have done a better job of pushing that back if you don't have Breeze and Hill and Jameis Winston. I don't know if they would make the Saints play that game, but I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Maybe one day they'll let out that secret, but probably not. So next, we have the San Francisco 49ers at the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams were a -7. We both took San Francisco, who outright won the game on a Robbie Gould field goal at the end. So good job by the Niners, who find themselves back in the playoff race, honestly. They might get one of those wild card spots. KC at Tampa Bay. KC absolutely dominated this game. They're up 27. Was it 27-0 or 27-10? Because they had a big lead at one point. I don't know if it was nothing. But
Yeah, I don't remember.
they were
It
up by
feels
a
like
good
so long
amount.
ago.
Yeah, I know. And Tyreek Hill had the crazy game. And but unfortunately for us, KC did not cover by half a point. So we both got the unfortunate loss there. Chicago at Green Bay. Andrew, I don't know why you took Chicago, but you did. And Green Bay won by 1,000,000 points. And they were -9. So that million covers the 9. Seattle at Philadelphia. Somehow they got a tie. Actually, I was mad about this because I had it down as I thought I took Seattle. I took Philly apparently. So I'm pretty sure I thought I took Seattle, but I took Philly apparently. So we got the tie there. I'll take that because the Richard Rodgers Hail Mary was a bunch of crap and we got lucky. And the 2-point conversion to Miles Sanders. We got very fortunate to at least tie that game. So we'll take that one. And Baltimore at Pittsburgh. We picked that game assuming Lamar Jackson was going to play and didn't have the whole COVID stuff going on. But we were still a half point away from covering somehow because I think Baltimore lost by 5, but it was a 4.5. So I think Baltimore lost that one by half a point, and RG3 got hurt. Trace McSorley comes in, and he might play this week. We'll see how that one goes. But yeah, not a good week for you. An okay week for me, but hopefully for your sake you bounce back, buddy, because I want this to be close towards the end here. But all right, so let's get into week number 13 now. We start with there's no Thursday game, hence the reason this is a Saturday we're doing this. But Jacksonville at Minnesota. Minnesota's a -10 at home, and we're both going to go with Jacksonville there.
Yeah, when you have a pretty competent quarterback in Mike Glennon, which he looked to be last week, you can usually cover a -10. Now, what does concern me is obviously the run game against Jacksonville here for the Vikings and Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook still battling with an injury, but he's probably going to play. I think they already said he is going to play. So that's always scary. But Jacksonville's been surprisingly good on the run stopping, even though they are not good in the rankings. When you watch their games, it seems like they're clogging up the holes a little bit. I think I saw it against Derrick Henry, which surprised me a little bit. But they've surprised me so far. Even against Nick Chubb, I think Nick Chubb got some touchdown at the end that really put him over the top, but he wasn't really dominating the whole game either. So when you have a competent quarterback like Mike Glennon, and I think the Browns are a better team than the Vikings, if they can cover or lose by 2 to 3 points there, then I think they can cover a -10 against Minnesota.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't know. I just don't think Minnesota's good enough of a team to have a -10 next to their name. So,
yeah,
I think Jacksonville has proved that they're a good enough team. I mean, they were very close with the Packers. They were very close with the Browns. I don't think the Vikings are in that conversation of being with even the Browns and, of course, not the Packers. So with that being said and how their offense is playing, and, of course, Jacksonville has a young defense that's going to make mistakes. And I know they get Adam Thielen back most likely, but it's not like Kirk Cousins is going to go out there and probably cover a 10-point spread. And as you mentioned, Jacksonville can surprisingly stop the run pretty well. If they can at least limit Dalvin Cook a little bit, then that should be fine. I think Jacksonville will put up points in this game. James Robinson's great. DJ Chark is back this week, which I'm happy about. So that's another weapon for them. And I don't know. I don't know if Jacksonville will win this game, but to have them at least cover a 10-point spread, I feel like pretty confident they can do that. It's not one of my favorite bets, but I feel like they can do it. So we'll both go with Jacksonville in the first game. Next is Las Vegas. The Raiders coming off that terrible loss against the Falcons. They get a nice little bounce back spot here at the New York Jets. Las Vegas is a -8.5. Now, I will say, I remember last year, the Jets absolutely destroyed the Raiders in this matchup last year. It was like, I don't know what the score was, maybe like 33-7 last year. The Jets won this game. The Jets are not as good as they were last year. I think we know that. But right now, Las Vegas is a -8.5, and we both took the Raiders here.
Yeah, I think the blowout loss last week almost helps the Raiders in this spread here, because I think this would have been a lot higher if they ended up winning that game. But you're right. I mean, they did dominate them last year, the Jets. So there is a little bit of concern there, but not really. I mean, the Jets won 7 games last year. I mean, just looking back, you're like, how the heck did that happen? Now they're on pace to win about 0-1. So it's a little bit of a lesser Jets team. They're thinking about moving on from quarterbacks, head coaches. It's really all going on over there. So I'm not really confident in the Jets. I am confident in John Gruden being able to come back against a crappy team. I don't think he is the type of coach that looks at this matchup and says, okay, let's take it easy. I don't think he's that kind of coach. I think he's a full throttle kind of guy, especially coming off of a big loss last week. So I really think you can see LV go and gain some confidence in this one and try and blow the Jets out.
Yeah, definitely. I think Josh Jacobs is out this game, but I don't really care. I mean, Devontae
Yeah.
Booker has proved to be fine this year. So, yeah, I think the Raiders, I mean, look, if the Jets can only score 3 points on Miami, not saying the Raiders have a defense as good as Miami's, it's probably somewhat close, but I think, Miami's a little better. But if you can put up 3 points against them, then, like, how are you going to score over, like, 10 on the Raiders? And I think, as you said before, it kind of helps us that they got blown out last week and kind of keeps the spread a bit closer. It might be like a -11 by the time Sunday comes around, but right now, I like the 8.5 number. I don't know if I trust Derek Carr, quote unquote, but I feel like they have too many weapons. This might be finally a game where Henry Ruggs gets a big catch or two, and a guy like Nelson Aguilar might break a big catch as well. So it's hard to count out the Jets with the weapons they have now with Perriman and Darnold and Mims, who looks good, but at the same time, I mean, like we've seen enough. Like they're 0-12. I mean, like what else? You can't really
Yeah.
bet on the Jets at this point. So to win by 9 points or more, 10 points or more, I feel like the Raiders, they are a playoff team. I feel like they're good enough to do that. They'll play well based on the embarrassment last week, and I feel like they'll get right. So I do like the Raiders here in this spot. Next, we're on to a game that I'm pretty excited to watch. It's the Cleveland Browns at the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee's a -5.5, which I thought was a little much, and we both kind of agree. So we're going to go with the Browns there.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really big offensive game here because I think the Browns are going to be able to establish the run. And I think they're going to really go off of that in the play action in the pass game with Baker Mayfield. So I think you can see a very high scoring game, maybe a final score in the mid-30s for both teams, whichever one is on top here. And honestly, when you're going for an offensive shootout, as good as the Titans are, I think I might take the Browns to outright win this game. And I say that because I don't think the Titans will be able to stop the Browns on defense, or on offense, I should say. So I think when it comes down to defensive battling, I think the Browns win that. Now, with that being said, they could be extra prepared for the run this week and force Baker Mayfield to throw the ball a little bit, but there's only so much you can do with that running back room where you can actually stop the run. If you don't have the talent to stop the run, you're not going to really stop it that much. So I think even if they don't outright win this game, which I think they do have a chance to, the Cleveland Browns, I think they will cover 5.5.
Yeah, Cleveland's a team that they beat the teams they're supposed to beat, and I think their 3 losses are to playoff teams. And people have this perception that Baker Mayfield's awful because there's a highlight or a low light every game of him missing a wide open receiver, and we saw it this week with the slant pass. But other than that one bad throw, I thought the guy played really well, and you know I'm like Baker's biggest defender, so I'm fine with the ball being put in his hands if they want to stop the run. Then I think with this atrocious Titans defense, I feel like they'll be able to pass the ball over them as well. Having Odell Beckham would have helped, but I think it's fine regardless. They got Austin Hooper back recently, so that'll be fine. Jarvis Landry had a really good game. He looks healthy once again. So I trust Cleveland's offense here, and I know the Titans are probably going to have some success on offense because Cleveland's defense is not great. They do get Myles Garrett back, I believe, unless something happens, but it seems like he's going to play. So I guess I like it from that standpoint, and if you can stop Derrick Henry and force Tannehill to beat you, put Denzel Ward on A.J. Brown, then maybe you're fine. But of course, Corey Davis might run free and Jonnu Smith. So it's a concern. And I agree with you. This will probably be a high scoring game, and that doesn't really favor the Browns, who are like that run first team. But I guess so are the Titans in a way. They're kind of similar teams. Their defenses are a little below average. Their offenses are, I don't want to say similar. I think the Titans have a higher ceiling as an offense, but the Browns, if they play this thing the right way and just don't beat themselves, I think can keep this one close enough. I think the Titans do win this game by 2 or 3 points, but the cover, I'll take the Browns as well. So we'll both go with that. Next game, we are on to Detroit. They're at the I almost said Chicago Browns. Wow, Chicago Bears. Chicago is a -3. I like Chicago a lot. They might be one of my favorite bets, but you're going to go with Detroit here.
I am going to go with Detroit because I just like the little Matt Patricia, get out of here. Let's go play our what's off and get this win, especially in the divisional game. I mean, for an outsider team who doesn't see the Chicago Bears twice a week, I might pick the Chicago Bears in this situation. But if you're the Detroit Lions and you see this consistent defense over and over again, offensively twice a year, I mean, you have a pretty good idea of what they're going to throw at you in a way. So when you have that going on, I think that decreases the value of the Chicago Bears defense in this one. And look, I think the Lions are pretty PO'd right now. I think Matthew Stafford, he's playing well, not that well, but I think he knows he can play better. And I think when they finally add pieces like Kenny Golladay back this week, which it looks like he might be, but maybe he'll be limited. We don't really know that situation yet. We have DeAndre Swift out I think if they can just somehow find a way to get the ball downfield quickly, run some routes with Kenny Golladay, run some slants with Marvin Jones, get the ball to those playmakers, I think they have a legit shot to win this game. I just don't have anything going for the Chicago Bears. There's a lot going on. Is it Nick Foles? Is it Mitchell Trubisky? The wide receiving core doesn't know. The offense doesn't know. The head coach doesn't know. But there is something going for them too. They have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. I know Matt Nagy, he's getting a little PO'd with his players not backing up other players and stuff like that. So that could be a problem. That could be helpful to Chicago Bears, could get them fired up. But I'm going to take your Detroit Lions. And you know what? I hope they cover, because that should show you that they only win when I want them to win.
Yeah, that would suck for me. I do like your point about Matt Patricia, which kind of did slip my mind, I guess, when making that pick. But the thing that really came to mind for me is that we know Mitch Trubisky sucks in general, but for some reason, the guy just plays his ass off against the Lions. I don't know what it is, but like his career, he averages like 3 touchdowns a game against them. And like if he can just do that, then like I don't know what it is with the Lions and Mitch Trubisky, but for some reason he looks like an elite quarterback against them. So I'm going to go with that. You mentioned Matt Nagy not being happy with his players, and if the players do like Matt Nagy, they're going to play hard for him. And, you know, because he's kind of got his job on the line here. I think it's his 3rd season here, maybe 4th, 3rd. 17, 18, 19, 4th season, I think, here. So, yeah, I mean, Matt Nagy might have a job on the line here, and I think if the players want him back, they'll play hard for him. I don't know about Galladay being available. I think DeAndre Swift, if he plays, will be on a pitch count, which is killing me in fantasy. I'm not happy about it, but I need him because my team. My running backs suck. I need DeAndre Swift. I'm out here relying on Mike Davis, who's now a backup, and Frank Gore, maybe. I don't even know he's on that team. I don't know. But, yeah, my running backs are terrible. So, DeAndre Swift, get well soon. But, yeah, I think the Bears have a good defense, obviously, much better than the Lions. I don't know. I just like it for a divisional matchup. I think the Bears have lost like 5 in a row here. They got to get off the schneid at some point. So I'm like, this might be a good matchup for them. Give me the Bears in this one as a -3. I keep clicking on last week's one. All right. So next we have New Orleans at the Falcons. So the Saints are a -3. The Falcons coming off a really impressive win against the Raiders. The Saints coming off a somewhat impressive win against the Broncos. They did dominate them, but still, I mean, it's no quarterback. But New Orleans is a -3, and we both like the Saints here.
I do like the Saints, but what confuses me, or no, not what confuses me, but what worries me is they're a little predictable now on offense, and they're not getting the ball into Alvin Kamara's hands as much, which I think is a key to beat a team like Atlanta. Get not only a free runner out there, but a free runner that can make some moves in space. Taysom Hill's very talented. I know they're going to run the ball a lot with him, and he played well against the Atlanta Falcons the last time he started. But he's a little predictable. I don't really see too much going on differently. It usually runs up the gut or runs outside. He really doesn't, put many juke moves. He kind of just lowers the shoulder. Can't really be it doesn't really have that much lateral quickness. But I will take New Orleans because I think their defense is just going to be able to shut down the Falcons for some reason. I know you're going to have a limited Julio Jones, which actually last week looked to be like in their favor. Calvin Ridley was the number 1 wide receiver, and he played pretty well. He wasn't even like the guy that won them the game. I think it was Younghoe Koo who won the MVP there. But I am going to go with New Orleans because I just don't like the way that the Falcons can stop the run. I think they have way too many playmakers, the Saints on offense, that do exactly that really, really well, including their quarterback, obviously Taysom Hill. So when you have a -3 here with the Saints and the Falcons, again, I think that blowout win by the Falcons almost helps us out here a little bit, giving us a lower spread here to pick for the Saints. So I am going to go with the Saints.
Yeah, I could be wrong. I don't have numbers in front of me, but I feel like when the Saints and Falcons have played the past like 3 years or so, the Saints usually do pretty well in those matchups, and I know it's not Drew Brees here. And here's an interesting note about this game, or about the Falcons, I should say. The Falcons have allowed 27 sacks and have seen Matt Ryan throw 5 interceptions over the past 4 games, so they're obviously not going to trend in the right direction here. And the Saints defense, you can even throw that Denver game out the window, although they look dominant in that game. Before that game, even the past 4 or 5 weeks or so, the Saints defense has been very legit. And look, I know Matt Ryan is a pretty good quarterback, and I know Julio Jones might be back on like a limited basis. He might be like a decoy in this game. But I just feel like the Saints have too good of a defense to get beaten by this team. They know them well. They usually play well against them. I know Taysom Hill's kind of limited. I know they have to get Alvin Kamara more involved. But even then, Latavius Murray went off last week. and I don't know, they'll throw the slants to Mike Thomas whenever they need to and just move the ball enough. And I am scared of Young Wei Koo. He's been amazing. So that's something to watch out for, but Will Lutz is fine as well. I do expect more touchdowns and field goals here, but with a -3 type of spread, you never know. But I think the Saints should win this game based on what we've seen in the past, and the Saints are 2-0 with Taysom Hill. They've looked fine. I think Taysom Hill can throw a deep ball when he needs to. And these teams, I think, played 2 weeks ago, I'm pretty sure. They played very recently. I think it was Taysom Hill's first start, and the Saints did a very good job against them, and they're in a dome once again. I don't even know who's home for this game. Who is it? It is the Falcons are home. Falcons. It's in a dome. Yeah, so it's like I don't even care. There's no fans. You're in a dome once again. I feel like why can't they do it? Because they did it 2 weeks ago, so why not do it again? So I'll go with the Saints as well. Next, we're on to a game that we disagree on. The Cincinnati Bengals at the Miami Dolphins. Miami is a -11.5. You're going to go with the Dolphins, and I'm going to go with the Bengals here.
Yeah, I think this is about establishing the run for the Dolphins. And what concerns me is they really don't have a healthy running back, and that's a problem. But I'm still going to go with the Miami Dolphins. Now, I will say, I'm going to backtrack a little bit on my Tua Joe Burrow thing because I think Tua's getting a little bit ahead of himself right now. I saw reports out there. Someone asked him in an interview, and I don't know if I can say this on camera, but he said that someone overheard Tua say Sam Darnold can suck something, right? So it's a little bit of a character issue there, which doesn't help me in my argument in trying to say that Tua is going to be a better pro than Joe Burrow. But you know what? That's not the case here. That this is all about Miami. And look, they have a defense that scares quarterbacks. They really do. Everywhere they look, they have a good cornerback. They have some good linebackers. They have some good D linemen that clog up the run. I think that's exactly what you need to do against Cincinnati, especially when they have a quarterback that's only having his second start of the season here. And I just think I know they have a lot of weapons offensively that they can go to the Bengals, but there's not too much chemistry there. They did play a great game against the Giants, but really outside of James Bradbury, I don't really see a lockdown corner. Logan Ryan maybe, but Logan Ryan's not really a lockdown corner. He's a good secondary corner, but he's not that good. Xavier Howard and Byron Jones, those are both like really good cornerbacks that could be number ones on any team. So I think going with Miami here, especially coming off of a win last week, I know it was against the Jets, but I think Tua needs to play his you-know-what's off, and just he needs to go off here, and he needs to prove me right. I think 11.5 is a big number. I think he needs to live up to it. What scares me again is his overconfidence in himself. He hasn't really been playing that well. I know they've been winning games, but he hasn't really been playing that well. He lost to the Broncos. That should still be in his head, even after the Jets win. But I am going to go with Miami because I think their defense is going to dominate Brandon Allen and the Cincinnati Bengals.
Are you sure Tua is the starter, or is it Fitzpatrick?
I think it's Tua.
All right. Yeah, I kind of prefer that, honestly. I don't even know, to be honest with you, but insider of the NFL, Moot, has told us that Breda has COVID, Ahmed is out, and so is DeAndre Washington. And Myles Gaskin has not been activated yet. So I don't know who's playing running back for the Dolphins anyway, but I guess they'll find somebody off the street. The way I look at this game is that last week Cincinnati was a +6 against the Giants. And in my opinion, the Giants and Dolphins have pretty similar defenses in a way. So if the Giants can only win by 2 against the Bengals, and I know they made like a late surge. It took a Darnay Holmes pass interference, which probably wasn't the best call, but they still lost by 2 points. If they can lose by 2 to the Giants, then why can't they lose by less than 11.5 to the freaking Dolphins? And I know the Dolphins are pretty good and all that, but I mean, Brandon Allen proved that he's not going to really kill you with the turnovers, at least from that game. I think last year he didn't kill them with turnovers too much anyway, for the Broncos. But here's a case where you have, a quarterback that's not going to turn the ball over too much. You still have good weapons in Boyd and Higgins and A.J. Green if he ever gets involved. Joe Mixon's still out, of course, but 11.5 is a lot of points. And I feel like Miami has not earned that type of respect from me yet to say they can win a game by 12 or more. So, maybe they will. I don't know. We'll see if Tua plays and how he does. And I'm happy you retracted your ridiculous statement that you made earlier in the year about Joe Burrow and Tua. But if that's what he said about Sam, why did he say that about Sam Darnold? What did Sam Darnold do to Tua, honestly?
I don't know. I have no clue,
weird.
but Tua denied it. So he had a little giggle, which you could tell was like, oh, how did you figure out that? And then he said, no, it didn't happen.
Oh, my God. It's just weird. I don't know why Sam Darnold would be brought up. Anyway, all right, so I'll go with the Bengals. You go with the Dolphins there. Next is the Indianapolis Colts, Andrew's Colts, at the Houston Texans. Indy's a -3.5 on the road. We're both going to go with the Colts here, and I feel pretty good about this one.
Yeah, I hate to do it to my Colts because I hope me picking them doesn't make them lose the game here or lose the spread, in fact. but their defense is just it's really good. And when you don't have Will Fuller on offense for the Texans now, statistically showing Deshaun Watson's been like bad without Will Fuller, even when he had DeAndre Hopkins there. So now that you don't have both, which obviously he hasn't had DeAndre Hopkins the whole season because he's in Arizona. Now that you don't have both, I mean, who are you really going to go to? To Duke Johnson in the passing game. I know they still have Brandon Cooks, but honestly, Brandon Cooks isn't really a number one wide receiver, and he's gone to multiple teams, and he's shown that he really can't pursue that number one wide receiving spot. And he's been great as a number two for the Texans. Moving up to number one, I just think that's almost going to slow them down in a way. He's a really how do I say? He runs a certain amount of routes, and he's really minimal in that sense. So I think the Colts, who have been playing really, really well lately, have a great defense who can actually shut down this fairly hot Texans offense, but now without Will Fuller, of course. I think that leaves them a really good spot here for Philip Rivers and the Colts to get it done. And 3.5, I think, is small. I expected this to be more like a 5 or 6, if I'm being honest. Maybe that's a little too high. I don't really know, but I think the Colts have been playing their you-know-what's off lately, and I just think they're gonna take this one.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to take like an just, all-world effort from Deshaun Watson to even keep this game close. And you mentioned Will Fuller being out in this game is huge. Even Ronald Darby at cornerback has been great for the Texans this year. He's out for the 6 games as well. So, I just don't know how Deshaun Watson and the offense gets it done. Even if David Johnson's back, I don't care. Brandon Cooks, you mentioned, not like a real wide receiver one. And you mentioned about Deshaun Watson's numbers without Will Fuller in the past have been bad. And that's even with DeAndre Hopkins. And without both of them, it's like, how do you even survive at this point? Like, you're going to lean on some guys that really aren't that good. So I don't know how they do it, honestly. And you look at, I forget they're playing now, the Colts. The Colts have a great defense. We know that. And if you have a great defense and an offense that has no identity anymore, then like, what do you even do in that situation? Because you saw on Thanksgiving that a lot of the Texans offense was just deep throws to Will Fuller. Not that it happens every week, but they take their deep shots with him all the time. And apparently they have some guy who's filling in for him. I forget his name, but he's not going to be Will Fuller. So if they fill him in that role and he ends up being Will Fuller, then that's great. But I don't really expect that because Fuller's a really good player. So I don't know. I just think the Colts offense will get it done here. I think Jonathan Taylor's back from COVID. So I expect them to do pretty well here. Houston has no run defense whatsoever, and hopefully Taylor goes off in this matchup, Nyheim Hines too. So we'll find out. But if Philip Rivers doesn't turn the ball over in idiotic ways, and I think the Colts should win this one by at least 5 or 6 points, as you mentioned before. So
I have a question for you.
What's up?
If Will Fuller played in this game, would you change your mind? I don't know if I would.
3.5. If it was still 3.5, I mean,
yeah,
I'd probably still go with the Colts. Yeah,
okay.
Which definitely is a good thing. Yeah. All right. So now we're on to a divisional matchup: the Los Angeles Rams and the Arizona Cardinals. A pretty big, playoff type matchup here. I mean, see who makes the playoffs. So right now the Rams are a -2.5. They are on the road though. I want to go with Arizona, and you're going to go with your Rams here.
I'm going to go with my Rams because Mr. Jalen Ramsey, he's pretty physical up against DeAndre Hopkins. And DeAndre Hopkins, him being locked up, that's not a good sign for the Arizona Cardinals. And that's the reason that they're kind of falling down in the standings a little bit, because DeAndre Hopkins really hasn't been what he was in the beginning of the season. And that's why you're seeing the Arizona Cardinals start to struggle a tiny bit. And look, the LA Rams, again, they scheme well against divisional opponents. I've been preaching it since day one. Sean McVay knows how to play in the division, and I think he'll get it done again this week. I just think overall, the LA Rams are just the better team than the Arizona Cardinals. And I think when you have a 2.5 point spread, even in a divisional matchup, I think the LA Rams could decide to do this and win this game. What does scare me is Jared Goff. He's not consistent enough for me to absolutely want to pick this 100%, but he's consistent to the point where I think they can win by 3 points against an Arizona Cardinals team who has been struggling offensively without the help of DeAndre Hopkins. I think he will be shut down again. Obviously, if that's not the case, it will be a different story. But Jared Goff, statistically, he plays fine against the Cardinals. He plays salvageable. He plays to win the game. He's a good game manager in that sense. So I think the LA Rams could really take this, and I'm going with both my teams. If you noticed, the Colts and the Rams here, and the Raiders. Actually, I don't know why I said the Raiders. I might be going with another LA team. A little spoiler alert later. All my favorite teams are getting picked here. But yeah, I am going to go with the Rams here.
The Kyler Murray shoulder injury concerns me because they have not looked right since that happened in that Seattle game, I think, a few weeks ago. So if Kyler Murray is healthy completely, I feel good about this. If he's not, then I guess the Rams do have a chance here, of course, and they'll have a chance regardless. But I don't know. I just feel like the Rams are predictable. This is a divisional matchup, and the Cardinals, I feel like, are more talented. I mean, you could argue that. I think the Rams defense is obviously more talented, but the Rams defense is just, you have like 4 or 5 really good players, and the rest are kind of like, just whatever. I feel like the Cardinals overall just have like more solid players than the Rams do. And I don't want to say who's more well coached, because I think we know the Rams are probably more well coached, but even Kingsbury is not too bad at scheming guys open, and he'll find a way to get DeAndre Hopkins more involved. If it's not Hopkins, we'll go to Christian Kirk or somebody else, or Dan Arnold, or one of the running backs in Edmonds and Drake. And Drake's been pretty good lately, honestly. So I feel good about the Cardinals offense moving the ball. Zane Gonzalez has to hit his freaking kicks, because that's going to, screw this whole game up for me. But if he can make his kicks and the Cardinals can at least get in field goal range consistently, then they'll be fine, in my opinion. I could see the Rams winning this, of course, but I like the Cardinals more from an overall talent standpoint, so I'll go with them to cover the 2.5. So next we're on to my New York Giants. They're at the Seattle Seahawks with Colt McCoy most likely as quarterback, with Daniel Jones doubtful. But Seattle's a -10 in this matchup. But even you like the Giants, and I like the Giants in this matchup.
Yeah, because the Giants just play up to their opponent. That's really been the case all year long. They know how to cover the spread, and when it gets to double digits, that's where I'm like, you know what? Let me pull the trigger on the Giants here, especially with a historically bad Seattle Seahawks defense. They played well against the Eagles last week, but the Eagles' offense has been struggling. So who knows how much of that was really on the defense there. So I am going to take the Giants, because I think when it gets to double digits, that's where you have to pull the trigger with the Giants. Because like I said, they play up to their opponents, and sometimes they play down to their opponents. You saw it last week. They played down to the Bengals when that game probably should have been more of a blowout in a sense for the New York Giants. I like the New York Giants. What does concern me is they don't have Daniel Jones. But to be honest, I think Colt McCoy might fit the offense better than Daniel Jones. I like his play style more in the sense of getting the ball to the tight end like Evan Engram usually does, or Evan Engram will get the ball probably a lot this game. I just like Colt McCoy. I like his ability to read downfield. I think that's a problem that Daniel Jones has had a lot this season, not being able to find the open guy downfield. I think that helps big time against the Seattle secondary that, again, has really struggled so far this season, and really the whole season. So 10 points, that's too much against the New York Giants, who usually play everything pretty close.
Yeah, I love my coaching staff. I think we'll keep it close. It is concerning because Seattle does have a good run defense, and I think they'll stop Wayne Gallman. So at that point, you're kind of forcing Colt McCoy to beat you. And although McCoy made a couple of good throws against the Bengals and like that, when he came in for the injured Daniel Jones, I'm not too confident with him for an entire game. But the Giants defense is still underrated, I think, in general NFL terms. So when people see Seattle Seahawks against New York Giants with backup quarterback, they probably still have that perception, oh, the Giants are freaking terrible, Seattle's going to kill them, which might drive the spread up a bit. But if you're looking at it from like people that look at both teams closely, I think you'll see that the Giants are actually not as bad as people think they are. And now that they have a coaching staff that can keep them in this game, I feel better about it. I obviously could see them losing this game 35-10, but at the same time, I trust this team enough to be good defensively and put Bradbury on DK Metcalf and Darnay Holmes on Lockett and say, try and beat us. And maybe they do, but I feel like the Giants are good enough here. They're well coached enough to at least cover this game. I have the Giants losing by like 6 or 7, so that's probably what's going to happen at some point. I don't expect the Giants to win this game, but at least keep it close. 10 points is a lot. I think it's like at 11 now or some number higher. So we got a bad number here for the Giants, but still 10 points is good enough for me. I think we'll both be all right with that bet, hopefully. So we went from my team to your team, the Philadelphia Eagles, who are just god-awful. Andrew wants them to rebuild. We'll rant about the Eagles on a different podcast one day, but this has been a rough stretch for you guys. They're at the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay is a -8.5. I'm going to take the Eagles, and you're going to take the Packers.
Honestly, the more I look at this game, I'm probably in the wrong here, I'm going to say, because the Eagles just get lucky and they cover the spread. I mean, it happened last week. They got some.
Do you want to change your pick before?
No, I do not want to change my pick, because I want it to be known that if the Eagles get absolutely dominated here, that I had really zero confidence in them. And if they win, they win. If they cover, they cover. I really don't care at this point. Like you said, I want them to go full rebuild mode. So from a game standpoint, the Green Bay Packers, I mean, they lost to the Eagles last year in Lambeau Field on Thursday Night Football. The Eagles somehow put up 34 points against what looked like early in the season a pretty great Packers defense. So they were able to score in that game. Jordan Howard will be coming back, so they'll probably shift between Sanders and Howard. Not good from a fantasy standpoint. Your brother, but it's it's really just there's nothing to go off of if you watch the Eagles right now to really say that they could compete with a team like this. Now I know 8.5, it's a high number, but I just don't have any confidence with the Philadelphia Eagles. I've seen some things. Wentz talking to his teammates, apologizing for his struggles. Yeah. So what? Until you do it on the field, that it really means nothing. He's been saying it week to week. He needs to stop with the turnovers, stop with the bad throws, yada yada yada. He hasn't done it. So until I see something change, I'm really not confident with the Eagles here. I did go with the Eagles last week because I thought maybe that was the game against a bad defense that the Eagles could possibly show up, and they did push the spread, but I'm just going to go with the Green Bay offense and defense that's really just looked pretty consistent all year long.
Yeah, that's a lot of good points by you, and I'm sorry you have to rebuild probably in the near future. It's weird for the Eagles because like they can't fully rebuild because Carson Wentz is going to be there for at least another 2 seasons. Like there's no way based on the dead cap they can really just cut him. So I don't know if that's going to work, but you can try and rebuild around a quarterback in his prime. I guess it's possible, but we'll see what they do. Let me ask you, do you want Doug Peterson and Howie Roseman fired or no?
It's really confusing. I don't know if you can point fingers right now on what's going on. I just think this has been a weird year, almost in a sense. Maybe Howie Roseman, but I think Howie Roseman is going to eventually do a good job to get all the old players out of there and get everybody new and young. Doug Peterson, his play calling has just been different, so I really don't know what's going on there. Possibly, I guess we'll have to see.
I will say Howie Roseman's drafts have not been the best recently. They were good at one point a while ago, but recently really not that great. So the reason I'm kind of taking the Eagles here is kind of a stupid reason, but you see both teams played in prime time. The Packers just destroyed the Bears. The game was over in 10 minutes basically. And then you look at the Eagles who are kind of like the laughingstock of football these days of just how bad Carson Wentz is, and people love to make fun of that. So I feel like the line could have been higher, but for some reason it's only 8.5. And I'm like, maybe the Eagles are the play here, and I'm kind of talking myself into it. And I think Carson Wentz is talented. I don't think people can dispute that. He's been terrible this year. We both know that. But Carson Wentz is talented just from like an overall quarterback standpoint. And I feel like you guys have too much talent. Like the Eagles defense is not terrible. I think they can get some pressure here. So like they can do that and just maybe find a way to generate some type of offense. I mean, you guys get Zach Ertz back this week, I think. I don't know how much he'll play, but that is good. So, yeah, you get that going for you, and maybe they find a way to, get those 2 tight ends back involved again. And, you did add Jordan Howard, which will suck for Miles Sanders fantasy owners, as you mentioned, but a nice and goal line back type of option. So, I don't know. I feel like the Eagles will probably lose this game, as we know, but can they lose by 4 to 7 points? I would say it's a possibility. So I'm like, with the Ravens, I keep chasing something that won't happen. I keep thinking the Ravens will finally be good. I think the Eagles are too talented to be this bad. They did push last week, thank God, but I'm going to go with them covering here, which I'll probably look back on and be stupid, but I'll go with that. This is a game you spoiled before, but the New England Patriots at the Los Angeles Chargers. The Patriots are a -1. There was some news that came out yesterday, like around this time actually, that Cam Newton had like an illness maybe or something, or I don't know if it was a chest injury or an illness. I forget, honestly, but he's kind of questionable for this game. Seems like he will play, and hopefully he does because I picked the Patriots, and you're going to go with the Chargers here.
Yeah, I kind of feel like in a way it's almost going against me here, even though this is a -1 spread, because Bill Belichick has been consistently great against young quarterbacks. I think this is where Justin Herbert, slays that narrative in a sense. I think Justin Herbert is a very, very talented quarterback, and I think he's playing at a very, very high level right now. And let's be honest, this -1, I think Vegas nailed it. I really think they do because the Chargers play down to their opponents and they play up to their opponents. They keep things close. That's been the story all season long. But I do think this is where they finally win that close game, the Chargers. They get that ball, down by 4, a minute left, and Justin Herbert finally does it. The receiver is actually in bounds this time. I think this is actually where they do it. I think this is where Justin Herbert, really shows what he's worth. Austin Eckler is here. He's great in the pass game. I think he got 11 receptions last game, caught all 11 that were thrown at him. They got him going right off of the injury, and he looked fine. He didn't show any shakiness, didn't obviously want to go out of the field, wanted to stay on the field. So I think the Chargers will pull out the win here. Obviously, they have to, or they have to lose by 1 in order for me to get anything positive going, or tie, if that's even like a thing now. But, yeah, I will go with the other L.A. Hard Knocks team.
The Patriots are a tough team to gauge. I feel like they keep games close, but I feel like they low key suck. But their coaching staff we know is good, and Bill Belichick is 100 times better than Anthony Lynn. So, like, based on the coaching and Bill Belichick in his career against rookie quarterbacks has always been good. I know Justin Herbert's a really good rookie quarterback, but he showed some weaknesses last week against the good Bills defense. And honestly, the Bills defense looked the best they had probably all year last week, so that's good news for them. We'll get to that game later. But I don't know. I just feel like Bill Belichick against the rookie quarterback here. The Chargers defense is nothing special. They'll be able to move the ball. If Cam Newton doesn't play, I definitely think the Chargers win this game. But assuming Cam Newton plays and can still extend plays in the pocket and run the ball and just make simple throws to Jacoby Myers and guys like that and whoever else they have at wide receiver these days, Demir Bird, I think they'll be fine. So I think the Chargers defense is not scary. The Chargers offense can put up a lot of points. We know that. We've seen it before, and covering Keenan Allen's definitely a tough ask these days, and I do think the Gilmore against Mike Williams matchup will definitely favor the Patriots. You mentioned Austin Eckler. He'll get his receptions, so he'll give you your fantasy points, my guy, but I don't know how many yards he'll get on those, so we'll see. I feel like the Patriots have a good enough game plan here, and I just think the coaching staff in New England is so much better than the Chargers, so if it's only 1 point, I'm going to take New England here. Next, we're on to the Denver Broncos. They're at the KC Chiefs, minus 13.5 for the Chiefs. I'm taking the Broncos, and you're going to take the Chiefs here.
I'm going to take the Chiefs because I see where you're coming from in a sense with taking the Broncos. 13.5 is obviously very high, and I think the Chiefs are a team at times that say, all right, we don't have to go full throttle here. This is a team that's struggling a little bit. Maybe we win this game by 7 to 10 points. But I think Patrick Mahomes is just going to have more fun. I think this is the week where he just goes, yeah, man, let's just have some fun this week. Let's just try some new things on offense. Let's see what else we can fall back on eventually in some of these other games. And this is the perfect spot to do it. A Denver team that really hasn't found their identity yet, really been shifting things all year long, hasn't found any consistency whatsoever. So Kansas City covering 13.5, even in a divisional game, I like it because they're a gunslinging team. They know how to score points, and they can score points really, really quickly. They can get down the field fast. They can put up, again, a lot of points. So 14 points, them winning by that much, look, it might be very, very high. And I honestly, maybe I'm kind of talking myself out of it now, but I'm going to stick with the Chiefs. And I hope for my sake that they do cover this because I need as many games as I can get on you where you pick the other team and I pick one of the other teams.
Yeah, I'm looking now. The last time these two teams played, the Chiefs won 43-16. That does not make me feel any better about this. But basically, the way I look at it is that there's a lot of I said this about the Eagles as well, a lot of bad public perception about the Broncos right now. People look at that and go, ha, they're the team with no quarterback last week. And they don't remember that, Drew Lock is back this week and all the other guys at quarterback that are real quarterbacks and not the backup wide receiver, the practice squad wide receiver. The Broncos were a joke last week. It was a tough game to watch. Owning the Saints defense, I felt pretty good about it, but that was about it. So watching it as a football fan, not a fun game or entertaining game whatsoever. But the Broncos defense is not complete garbage in my opinion. It's hard for a defense when you have no offense whatsoever to hold a team the entire game. They probably got really tired in that game, and you saw Latavius Murray break off these big runs in the fourth quarter because I'm sure they were burnt out. So I think you keep them more fresh and keep the Broncos offense on the field. I know the Chiefs have the best offensive football, but as you mentioned earlier, I could see the Chiefs kind of taking their, pedal off the gas a little bit and go this is a game we're going to win probably regardless. We don't have to really go all out here. They'll make coast a little bit, keep a 7 to 10 point lead for most of it. And maybe they find a way late to cover this game, but I just feel like Denver there's a bad taste about them right now. I like Drew Lock coming back here. I think he'll play pretty well in this matchup, which it's a tough limb to go out on because he can go out and throw 4 interceptions as well. But at the same time, the Chiefs' defense is not the greatest thing in the world, so I'm fine with Denver here. They'll get their offense going once again. I think I might have saw Jerry Jeudy's an actual questionable player here, so that would be a big loss and definitely not good for me, already being down Cortland Sutton as well, and now maybe Jerry Jeudy. So we'll find out, but if he plays, I'll feel even better about this one. So I'll take Denver plus 13.5, and you take the Chiefs minus 13.5. Next is a game I feel good about, honestly. You might be surprised, though. It's Washington at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's a minus 7. I like Washington a lot in this matchup. You're going to go with the Steelers here.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Steelers because you can tell Mike Tomlin is verbally upset even though his team is 11-0. He said this was JV football when he was playing against the Ravens. He wasn't too happy with how they played. I think this is the game where they say to themselves, look, everybody's been saying that, we're a good 11-0 team, but we haven't played the best teams. And again, this is probably another example of that in which they don't play the best teams. I think this is where they need to crush an absolutely bad team and say to themselves, look, we are legit. Okay. This 11-0 stuff, this is real. We earned this. This is who we are. And I think they absolutely go out there. And I think the mindset is to, full throttle on this one. I think the Steelers are really going to go out there and kind of just beat down on the Washington football team. I think they're PO'd that all these games have been pushed back from things that aren't even in their control, from other teams making mistakes within the COVID protocols. So I think they're overall just a pretty jacked up team for 11-0 that really want to go out there and really want to dog a team or two. So I think this is a game where you could see Washington possibly in a bad spot, catching the Steelers almost at a bad time. Obviously, if you're a struggling team, catching the Steelers at any time is bad. But I think in this game, you could see the Pittsburgh Steelers really show why they are 11-0.
Yeah, I don't know. They're not the best 11-0 team. I think we can agree on that. And Washington's a team that has the extended rest from Thanksgiving. And you look at the team like the Steelers, who basically just played on Wednesday, and this game's on a Tuesday or a Monday? I forget when this game is. It might be Monday, right? I
Yeah.
think it's Monday. So a lot shorter rest here for the Steelers as compared to the Washington football team. And I like Washington from a standpoint to keep games close. I mean, you mentioned Teddy Bridgewater always keeps games close. Alex Smith throughout his career has usually been the same way. He's not a guy that's going to kill you. He does have a good amount of interceptions this year, which I'm a little concerned about. But the Steelers defense is really good. I think the Washington defense is not as good, but is also really good. I think they have a couple of good cornerbacks. They have some decent linebackers, one of the best front fours in football, maybe the best front four in football, honestly, for Washington. So I have no concerns about Washington stopping the run. I think James Conner might be out with COVID. We'll see how that one goes. But if he plays, I'm not too concerned either. So we have that, and you're going to force Ben Roethlisberger to beat you, which he can do. But, also you look at Washington's offense, and you have Terry McLaurin and Logan Thomas. Antonio Gibson's been awesome, and J.D. McKissick in games where they're down usually moves the sticks and keeps them in it. So I think the Steelers will still win this matchup, but I think this is a game where I can actually see Washington win this game outright. I know it's crazy, but I think it's a good matchup for them. And if they can get pressure on Roethlisberger, and let's be honest, the Steelers' offensive line has been great for the past 8 years, but it hasn't been as great this year as it usually is. So there is that. You can get to Roethlisberger. So if Washington gets some pass rush here, which I think they will, then they can keep this game a lot closer. So I don't know if they win, but it's possible. I think 7's a pretty good number for Washington, so I will take them in this matchup. Next, we're on to the Buffalo Bills at the San Francisco 49ers. San Fran's a -1, which is a little surprising to me, but we're both going to take the Bills there.
Yeah, it was a little surprising. I almost thought you might have had a typo here when you sent me these spreads. I was like, really, Vegas is riding San Fran after that win. They're riding them really high. And honestly, Mike, this is a game where we could look at this spread and say, what's going on here, but then be surprised again by the outcome. It's happened several times where we've looked at the spread and been like, wow, well, why is this the way that it is? And we go against it, and then we make a mistake. It's really happened a lot, and it's starting to catch me a little bit where I'm starting to think okay, maybe I should just go with Vegas on this one. But I am not yet anyways, because I think the Bills honestly are one of the better coach teams, probably one of the best coach teams in the NFL. They play hard and they play their opponents well, no matter who it is. They will always be competitive in whatever game. -1, especially now that it's in the 49ers' favor, I really feel comfortable because I thought the Bills right off the bat were just going to win this game. If I'm going money line, I'm probably picking the Bills. I like them on offense. I think they can run the ball. I think they can throw the ball. I think they're really good. I think Zach Moss and Devin Singletary make a really good, underrated duo. I think they are a really good running back room. So I think even if they can't rely on the pass with Stephon Diggs, John Brown, Cole Beasley, I think they could still get it done. And I think actually, now that I think about it, I think Cole Beasley might be really big in this game because he's a really good option in the slot for Josh Allen, and Josh Allen obviously feels really comfortable going to him. So I think he could be maybe the difference in this game. But honestly, I wouldn't have been surprised if I saw Buffalo favored by 3 or 4 points here because I think they are really the better team. I know San Fran just came off that big win, as I mentioned before. but I am going to go with Buffalo because I think they're a better coached team, surprisingly saying that about Kyle Shanahan, and I think they're overall just a better team.
Yeah, I always like to side with Shanahan, and I low-key want to pick the Niners now, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to, I don't know, hopefully we're both right here. If you pick the Niners, I probably would switch my pick, but I'll just be safe and stick with you on this one. I don't know. You did mention Cole Beasley. I think he will be big as well because you have Richard Sherman back on the outside who will probably – I don't know if he's on one side of the field or he'll be on Diggs, but, John Brown's out now for – I guess he's on IR. I don't know if it's for the season or not, but he's out. So there's only two really big receiving options to worry about with the Bills. And the Bills are, I think, as well coached as the Niners are. I think from a schematic standpoint, no one really beats Kyle Shanahan. But, yeah, I think McDermott's more of a defensive coach, gets the most out of his defense. And as I mentioned before, the Bills' defense looked the best they have, basically all year, in my opinion, last week against the Chargers. And, I mean, the Chargers probably should have put up more points. They had that debacle on the goal line at the end of the game there, which was ugly. But I like them enough here, the Bills, to at least win this game. I think San Fran's a team that definitely needs this game more, which does concern me because the Bills can lose this game and still win their division. Probably would not be too much of a concern if they lost, but I think the Niners are going to be more hungry for this game, which is a concern. But I feel like the Bills just are in a better spot here. They have a more healthy team, and honestly, the Niners defense is mostly back outside of Nick Bosa, so they're pretty healthy for the most part. But at the same time, I think the Bills defense finally stepped up in the right direction, so I have faith in them to do it once again against the Niners team and Nick Mullins at quarterback. So now we're on to the last game. I think it's the last game. I think we're at 15 matchups here. There's two byes against the Panthers and the Buccaneers are on bye, so 15 matchups I think we have here. The last game is Dallas at Baltimore. I think it's a Tuesday night game. Baltimore is a -7.5. I'm taking Baltimore with the assumption that Lamar Jackson will be back, but as we're doing this on Saturday, we don't know. So I could definitely take the L here, but we'll see. And you're going to take the Cowboys at +7.5.
I'm going to take the Cowboys because, honestly, they've surprised me to an extent. Now, look, they got blown out last week. I mean, it's really, not that much of a confidence booster for them in really any sense. They really didn't play well on defense. They didn't play well on offense. But it was Thanksgiving. And over the last few years, the Cowboys have not played well on Thanksgiving. They don't play well on the Thursday shift at all. And I think them playing against a Ravens team who has really not been on the practice field that much this far with some of their starters, like Lamar Jackson, as you mentioned, he hasn't been on the practice field that much. I think he's practiced a little bit this week, but still kind of getting that chemistry back a little bit. I think Andy Dalton could actually keep this game close. I think they could take advantage of the Ravens struggling here. And honestly, I just haven't seen that Ravens team from last year, that Ravens juice at all. And I know you've kept preaching they're going to get better, Andrew. I know they're going to get better. They're going to get better. I haven't seen them get better. I've only seen them really get worse. They've really just played really bad football. And even last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers, I mean, like Mike Tomlin said, that was a JV game. They put up 14 points. They were okay. They really didn't play well. And I don't think, honestly, Lamar Jackson would have made that much of a difference in that game. They just looked slow. They just looked like they couldn't get open, couldn't make the throws, couldn't get outside the pocket much. I don't really know. I'm not feeling the Baltimore Ravens right now. Not that I'm feeling the Dallas Cowboys, but I just don't like the things that I'm seeing from Baltimore that much from a consistency standpoint. I don't think they're the team that they are last year at all. I think they play in a very, very tight division. And I think they do have kind of a chip on their shoulder in that sense where everybody's starting to count them out, including me. But I am going to go with the Cowboys here because I do think they have a team almost built to be competitive when the game is really close.
I need to pick apart one of your quotes there. You said the game wouldn't be different if Lamar Jackson was there.
That different. Yeah. Okay. They just look slow.
I think Robert Griffin's awful, but even Trace McSorley, who did have the lucky touchdown at the end, the corner took a bad route, guy missed the tackle after it, but I don't know, give me Lamar Jackson over those guys by a million miles, So I think Baltimore's defense actually did really well last week. I know that Pittsburgh, I think, didn't have James Conner, but outside of that, they were pretty healthy, and they held Pittsburgh to 19 points offensively. That's a really good outing, especially for how bad their offense was, Baltimore. They didn't move the ball much anyway, so I think the Steelers had a defensive touchdown. I didn't have the game on at that point yet, but take that away and put Lamar Jackson in, I think the Ravens legit would have won that matchup. I know it didn't happen. You have to say what if, but like still, I think if Lamar Jackson was there and the defensive touchdown doesn't happen, I think they actually would have had a chance there. So the Ravens, I still think, are in a different category than this struggling Cowboys team. And I know the Cowboys benefit from the extra rest, but the Cowboys are so lost. Like, I don't know what they're doing. They look so bad against Washington on Thanksgiving, and I don't even care about the extended rest because Baltimore, they're going to come in like, basically even closer off a game they just played recently. I know this game's on a Tuesday, so it's basically close to a week rest for them, 6 days of rest, and I guess the league benefited them with that one. So you hopefully get Lamar Jackson back. You play a team like the Cowboys that has no identity right now whatsoever. And the Ravens defense, for how well they played against Pittsburgh, why can't they hold the Cowboys to under 14 points next week? I don't think it's like out of the realm of possibility. I think if they had Lamar Jackson, I think they could score 24 at least and put up a 24-14 type victory. That would cover a 7.5 point spread. So I will take Baltimore there. So that will do it. We're through the matchups now. Let's get through the favorite bets of the week. I picked, as I mentioned before, 2 terrible teams. But Andrew, do you have your picks yet, or should I go first?
You can go first. I'm going to confirm my picks here.
Okay. All right. So my favorites, I right now have Chicago at -3 against Detroit at home. The Bears are home, I meant to say. All right. So Detroit, I'm taking Chicago -3. And let me look at the other one. So there are some other good ones I like. I think I'm going to go with Washington. I just felt good about Washington off the bat. I don't want to say the Steelers are frauds, but they're overrated in my opinion. Washington's a bit underrated right now. So I'll go with Washington at a +7 and the Bears at a -3 for my 2 favorite bets.
I'll take the Raiders and the Buffalo Bills.
Okay, Raiders, where are they? The Raider. Okay, Raiders -8.5 against the Jets, never a bad idea. And the Buffalo Bills at a +1. I don't know. I feel bad about the Bills now. For some reason, I thought they're not going to win that game after we talked it out a bit, but I don't know. We'll find out. I guess they should win that game, but I don't know. Vegas has other ideas for that one. So that'll do it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Any last thoughts, Andrew, before we wrap up?
No.
No? All right. I'm hungry, so I want to get some food. But I'll talk to you later, and thank you for watching, everyone.